What is up, my Shadowverse soldiers, and welcome back to another Shadowverse Evolve video. Alrighty soldiers, and welcome back to another Shadowverse video. So in this video, we're going to be doing this set 14 and 15 reveals for neutrals. Don't exactly know what cards are coming out for sets 14, but I know Jerry is going to be making a comeback along with Gillenese in set 15, so I'm very excited for these reveals. Alright, without missing our notes or anything, let's go ahead and start off with BP 14 Banquet of Dreams. Alright, so looking at our first card, so we have Magna Saber. So it's a 5-cost 4/4. You can evolve them for 1. You can activate only if there are at least 3 festive cards on your field or in your EX area. As a ward, when it comes to play Fanfare, you select enemy fall on the field and deal it 4 damage. Alright, so looking at the traits here though, so this is also a Machina and Magna card, so I don't know how exactly you might be implementing that into the Machina deck, but this can cost for a Machina card. But of course you're unable to evolve it unless you have the 3 festive cards, so probably gonna have to make a little bit of a hybrid build. But I think this evolve is pretty demanding, I'd say, outside of the fact that unless you need the festive cards in your EX area, which is really easy. It's pretty easy to keep your festive cards in your EX area, minus like having your actual festive cards on field, unless they're amulets. But I think this card isn't that bad. 5 play points for a 4/4 that does 4 damage to an enemy follower. That's pretty okay. Alright, and then looking at Magna Saber Evolve, so it turns into a 5/5 and it still has ward, but on Evolve you select up to 2 enemy followers on the field and deal 5 damage divided between them. Alright, so I think this low-key might scream a little bit of Havencraft, because I think you might be able to squeeze this into the Havencraft build because you'll have those festive cards on your field or in your EX area to potentially get this ability off. It has some pretty good removal on the unevolved side and the evolved side here. Alrighty, next up we have Flame and Glass Duality. So it's a 6-cost 7/7. When it comes into play Fanfare, you banish a Fiend card or an Arc Fiend card from your cemetery. You can select up to 2 enemy cards on the field and destroy them, but you can also activate to banish a Fiend card or an Arc Fiend card from your cemetery to give this follower Storm. Alright, so I do like what this legendary does provide. It just means that you do have to play more of a Fiend / Arc Fiend archetype just to make sure you're able to banish at least 2 Fiend cards before playing this. So being able to on Fanfare get rid of 2 enemy cards is just huge for removal. And then on top of that, if you're able to banish another Fiend, having a 7/7 Storm body is even bigger than that too. Alright, but next up we have Glistering Angel. So she's a 2-cost 2/2. You can evolve for 1 and she has ward. When she comes into play Fanfare, if there are at least 5 angel cards in your cemetery, you can give your leader +2 defense. Alright soldiers, so you already know the philosophy on this channel that if they keep printing support of it, it'll eventually be good. So angels keep getting cards. So cards like Angel of Chaos will actually be really nice, but I don't think we're leaning towards a late game of Angel of Chaos now, just because Saakwheel and Israfil are probably more of the late game cards you're going to be looking for in the Angel deck. But let's look at the Glistering Angel Evolve though. So she turns to a 3/3 and she has ward, but on Evolve you look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal an angel or a fallen angel card from among them and add it to your hand. Put the rest of the bottom of your deck in any order. Alright, so I believe this card is actually not that bad, pretty good even, just because you have a 3/3 ward body that's also a searcher, and most of the angel cards that you are going to be using on their unevolved Fanfares are going to check for those 5 angels in your cemetery, so having a 3/3 ward body that allows her to replace herself in your hand is pretty good. Alright, and next up we have Angel's Blessing. So it's a 3-cost spell. It's also a quick to give your leader +2 defense while it allows you to draw 2 cards as well. Alright, so this is a lot for 3 play points, so being able to heal yourself for 2 and then also drawing 2 on your opponent's end phase is actually pretty nice to get you some good hand size. Alrighty, next up we have Magna Transformation. So it's a 1-cost amulet. So when a Magna Saber on your field evolves, you can put this card into its owner's cemetery to give your leader +1 defense. But when this card does come into play, you can search your deck for a Magna Saber and put it into your EX area. So this is just a 1-cost amulet that goes and gets your legendary for set 14 and throws it right into your EX area. And then when you do go to play your Magna Saber, this can definitely count as one of your festive cards, so you won't have much of a heavy requirement on the festive cards for your evolve. Alright, and moving on into the silver card, so we have the Gunslinger Automaton, which is a 3-cost 2/2. You can evolve her for 1, but when she comes to play Fanfare, you put the top card of your deck into your EX area. Okay, so an interesting ability, I'd say. So I think, of course, this might have some more effects in Handless Abyss, maybe, just because you're putting the top card of your deck into your EX area. So I wonder what this evolve is going to do to make this card even better. Alright, so looking at the Gunslinger Evolve though, so she turns into a 3/3, but on Evolve you summon an Ancient Artifact token. Alright, there's some pretty good removal, I'd say. So you can now swing 3 into a body, and then you also summon the Ancient Artifact, which is another 3/1 artifact with Rush. So you're able to swing a total of 6 into one body. Alright, and next up we have Ogre Weapon Master. So he's a 6-cost 6/6. When he comes into play Fanfare, you choose one of the following. You can either 1, select an enemy follow on the field and deal it 6 damage, or 2, deal 3 damage to each enemy leader. Alright, so a neutral card that is allowing you to play a big body with some big stats that allows you to hard remove a follower if it has at least 6 defense, or being able to just deal 3 damage to the enemy leader if your opponent doesn't have any followers on the field. Alrighty, next up we have Stay in Paradise, so it's a 1-cost spell. You can look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may put a Festo card from among them into your EX area, and you put the rest of the bottom of your deck in any order. Alright, so if your deck struggles to find your festive cards, we now have a spell card that can really help you out. This can probably go into a lot of the festive decks, so if you are looking to playing festive cards, I suggest that you can slide maybe 1 or 2 of these into your deck. Alright, next up we have Brave Goblin. So he's a 2-cost 2/2. You can evolve him for 1, but when he comes into play Fanfare, you can spend 2 extra play points to discard a Goblinoid card. You can select any follower on the field and deal it 4 damage, and then you give this follower +2/+2. Alright, so one thing I'm kind of noticing about the Goblinoid deck is that it is kind of fair on what you're going to be paying for these bronze cards. So for a total of 4 play points and you discard a Goblinoid card, you're able to just select enemy follower, deal it 4 damage. You can turn this follower into a 4/4, and for 4 play points, that's not that bad. But looking at the Brave Goblin evolve, so he does turn into a 3/3, but on evolve you do draw a card. So if you paid the total of 5, you're able to replace that Goblinoid card that you did discard by being able to draw a card, and hopefully you're able to go into more Goblinoid things. But then turning this follower into a 5/5, rush body is also good too. But if you want to keep this up, upright 5/5 and make your opponent hard remove something for 5 damage, that's also an option too. Alrighty, next we have Torch-Bearing Guide. So he's a 2-cost 2/3. When it comes to play Fanfare, you put a festive card from your hand into your EX area, then you draw a card, and if there are at least 3 festive cards in your EX area, you can give this follower +1/+1. Alright, so I might have recommended another card for handless, but I know 100% this card is supposed to be in handless just because you're able to throw in festive card into your EX area before you get rid of your hand, being able to draw more resources so you can keep doing things, and then turning this into a 3/4 body, especially when you're playing super low to the ground and you're just playing everything that you have in your hand as resources, is pretty good in terms of stat line. Alright, next up we have Goblin Assault. So it's a 2-cost spell. When playing this card, you can discard a Goblinoid card, and this card costs 2 less to play. You can select enemy follower on the field and then deal it 3 damage. Alright, so a spell removal card for Goblin, and especially if you discard a Goblinoid card, you can make this card free. So if you're going to need to do 3 damage to a follower and you want to keep playing Goblinoid cards, so you're able to play this for free. Alrighty, and then we have our alt art for set 14, and this card looks absolutely beautiful, having both flame and glass on both sides. And this card just looks very poetic, I'd say. This is a very beautiful card. So if any of you soldiers are out there looking forward to picking this card up for sets 14/15, I hope you're able to acquire it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and move on into set 15, Trial of the Omens. Bask in his glory, we have Murderbane the Great One. So he's a 3-cost 4/4. When he comes into play Fanfare, you discard 3 cards and you put a Great Testimony token into your EX area. You can also activate to banish a Murderbane Omen of 1 from your cemetery to deal 2 damage each enemy leader, draw 2 cards, and you can activate only once per turn. Alright, so this is going to go very well in a lot of these neutral decks, or a lot of these decks that kind of just want to filter cards out of your hand. Very interested in looking at a kind of like egg build for this, just because you want to throw as many eggs and then Humpty Dumptys into your cemetery as much as possible. And then of course being able to banish Murderbane as being one of the cards that you do discard, you're able to go ahead and deal 2 damage to the enemy leader and then draw 2 cards and kind of replenish your hand some. Alright, so let us look at the token spell card though. So we have Great Testimony. So it's a 0-cost spell. You can select enemy follower on the field and destroy it, and if there's a Murderbane Great One on your field, you can deal 2 damage to its leader. Alright, so this token spell is amazing. These 0-cost hard removes is just very good, and then on top of that, of course, if you're going to have your legendary on field, and this isn't a quick, so as long as you're able to remove a follower off the field, you're able to do 2 damage to the leader, remove a follower, and then on top of that, if you do the activate ability for Murderbane Great One, then you're able to do an extra 2 damage to the enemy leader. Alright, next up we have Gillenese Ravenous Craving. So she's a 2-cost 2/2, and you can evolve from 1, and while your leader has 10 defense or less, this follower has Drain. Alright, so I know this is going to be kind of weird to be throwing in, but I think this might be a pretty good card in Lust, I'd say. Might be a pretty bad top deck just because the deck doesn't draw too much, but being able to have 10 or less defense is something that Lust is definitely going to have, so her having the Drain is going to be very nice. And then the reason why her having Drain is going to be very nice because we do have the Ravenous Craving evolve, so she turns to a 3/3, and while your leader's defense is 10 or less, she still has Drain, but on evolve you can choose one. You can either select another follower in the field and give a +2/-2, or you can put a Ravenous Sweetness token into your EX area. Alright, so of course not only for the less deck you can throw this in, especially if you're playing on the back end and you need to have at least some healing in your deck. Being able to heal for 5 is something that's very nice. Just do be mindful that when you are going for the heal 5 damage, you're going to have a 1 defense follower swinging at that, so this is definitely going to get removed. Or if your opponent has the response by dealing at least like just 1 damage to a follower, this is not going to happen. But let us look at the second option that allows us to spawn out the Ravenous Sweetness. So it's a 5-cost spell token. You can deal 2 damage to each enemy leader, give your leader +2 defense, and then you draw 2 cards, and each opponent discards 2 random cards. Alright, so this is a lot for 5 play points, but it does a lot in its ability as well. So being able to deal 2 damage to an enemy leader allows you to heal yourself for 2, draw 2 cards, and then your opponent removing 2 cards from their hand is going to be pretty good in terms of spells. You just do have to wait because you're probably not going to be putting the Gillenese on the field and they're also doing this at the same time unless you're having a lot of play points in that one turn. Alrighty, but next up we have Arael, I think that's how you say it. She's a 2-cost 0/1, you can evolve from 1 and she has ward, but when she comes to fanfare you can select a follower on your field and give it +1/+1. Alright, so like I said before in the last section for set 14, that if they keep printing support for angels, it'll eventually be good. So a 2-cost follower that'll probably give another 1-cost follower angel the +1/+1, or give herself the +1/+1 if you want to have some more damage on your ward follower, is something that can definitely happen. But of course, looking at the Arael evolve, so it turns into a 1/2 and it still has ward, but on evolve you can select a follower on the field and give it +1/+1. So 3 play points to probably potentially buff this up by +2/+2, so any follower that you do have and you do evolve the Arael in the same turn, they're just going to get +2/+2. Alrighty, next up we have Thunder God of the Tempest, so it's a 7-cost 5/5. When it comes into play fanfare, you can select out of 2 of the following. You can either 1, select enemy amulet on the field and destroy it, 2, deal each enemy follower in the field 3 damage, or 3, give this follower storm, or 4, to draw 2 cards. There are some very good options for, and of course they go with a lot of situations. If you're playing against something that's Wasteland, you can get rid of that pesky amulet. If your deck doesn't have that, you can deal 3 damage to the board if your opponent's playing pretty low to the ground after the late game. Or we can give this follower storm and swing in for some 5 damage, or we can just draw 2 cards if we're playing a little bit more control. Alrighty, next we have Resolve of the Fallen, so it's a 1-cost spell. You can select the enemy follower on the field and deal it 2 damage. If there are at least 3 face-up evolved followers in your evolved deck, you can deal 4 damage instead. If there are at least 5, you can draw a card and then recover 1 play point. Alright, some Fallen Angel cards here, so it's going to check for how many times you've evolved this game. If you evolve 5, you can draw a card and recover a play point while you do everything else on this card. Alrighty, next up we have Mechanical Analyzer, which is a 3-cost 3/3 that allows you to evolve for 1. And then looking at the Mechanical Analyzer evolve, so it turns into a 4/4, but on evolve you do draw 2 cards. Alright, so not exactly sure when we're going to be using a card like this, but just being able to draw 2 cards and draw through your deck is pretty cool, I'd say. Alright, next we have Messenger of the Sky, so he's a 5-cost 3/4. When it comes to play fanfare, you can select enemy follower on the field and destroy it. You then look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal an angel card or a fallen angel card from among them and add it to your hand. Put the rest of the bottom of your deck in any order. Alright, so I believe this is a pretty gas card for angels. So not only are you able to hard remove a follower, you're also able to look at the top 4 cards to replacing this card and adding another angel that might be your potential next play line very next turn. Alrighty, next up we have Merciless Voiding, so it's a 3-cost spell. You can summon X ancient artifact tokens. X equals the number of enemy followers on the field. Alright, so if your opponent is getting super freaky and they're low to the ground in the early game and your deck really doesn't thrive there, you're able to go ahead and spend 3 play points to summon, X amount of ancient artifact tokens, that being how many followers are on your enemy's field, and especially after they've already swung with you, as long as they have 3 defense, they're going to be removed that turn. Alrighty, next we have Nomadic Conductor, so she's a 1-cost 1/1, you can evolve her for 1. Alright, so looking at the Nomadic Conductor evolve, so she turns into a 2/2, but on evolve you draw a card and then put a card in your hand on the bottom of your deck. Alright, so I will say that this card's ability is interesting. The art is very beautiful, I'd say, so I wish this ability had like a better way so I can actually use this card, but I think the only reason you would use this is to replace Gold Ring or Mystic Ring. I think that's the name of the spell card. This is what Mystic Ring does. You just draw a card and then you put a card to the bottom of your deck, but now this is in a 2/2 follower. Alrighty, next we have Mountain Gigas, so he's a 7-cost 7/7. He has Rush and Ward, but when he comes to play fanfare, you can select enemy follower on the field and then deal it 7 damage. Alright, so don't exactly know the draft format, I'm gonna be honest. I think this is definitely, when we're looking at these other cards, these are probably like the draft cards that you're probably looking for if you're doing pick 8. I think that's what it's called. Don't quote me on it, soldiers, I'm sorry. I'm not able to draft, but if you're playing the opening set where you can only exclusively play cards from sets 14 and 15, you do get a lot of value out of these cards. Alrighty, next we have Fluffy Angel, so it's a 2-cost 2/3. When it comes into play fanfare and on last words, you can give your leader +1 defense. That's a pretty okay angel card, especially, for 2 play points. I don't know if most angel players are going to be playing this, but I do like the art for the card. And alright, soldiers, we have our alt for set 15 here. Now, I'm not exactly sure if we get this SP for set 15. Do let me know in the comments below if we do get both these cards for sets 14 and 15 with my sets here. But we do have the Gildanese Ravenous Craving Evolve and Unevolved here. So if you soldiers are in the market to pick this up, of course, most of the neutral cards are going to be most helpful sometimes, but don't know how exactly this Gildanese is going to be played this upcoming set. But if you are looking forward to picking this up, I hope you're able to acquire it. And alrighty, soldiers, that is everything for set 14 and 15. We are finally finished with 2 days left until we have our cards in our hands on Friday. Hope everyone's going to be able to play the decks that they're going to be looking forward to playing. I'm very excited to pick up my rune cards because I am fiending to play some Shadowverse Evolve because I haven't in quite some time. Just been very busy, but I'm very excited to see you all in the Discord. If you are going to be playing the Discord, hopefully you all be around to hang out with me if you have the availability to. But alrighty, soldiers, make sure you are safe in whatever you do tonight and safe whatever you do for the rest of the year. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Yeah. TRINN. Just to get you away. What I got to do. What I got to do.